Okay, so now we are on a recorded line. And then this will be available to everybody to be able to go back and listen as we, after we're done, and you can refer to any information that's presented here. So I guess starting, you all know Serena. I'm Serena's friend. We met through a reading. We're in a online group together that has nothing to do with spirituality, and I was looking for a reading, and we started talking, and just kind of really clicked, and she's a very good reader, and I don't say that lightly. I was actually a professional reader for 3 years. And
can I correct you? Like, you are. Not that you were.
I may not have lost. I don't do it professionally. Well, I don't know. I'm in transition. So in any event, I was doing it full time as a job, and life sort of took me away from that, and I'm kind of coming back to it now. So through our conversations, I actually had the opportunity to read Serena, and then she said, we should do a seminar. And so that's kind of how we got here. In order for you to feel comfortable, if you guys have any questions for me, just to make yourself feel at ease, please feel free to ask them. And if you're comfortable, we can just go ahead and sort of start with you guys, because really that's what this is about.
No question? Everybody's all quiet.
I don't really have a question, I guess. I don't know that I know enough about this to have any questions, but at the same time I have, like, so many. I just feel like I'm so confused all the time. Like, I don't know what to think about myself anymore, and I guess I lost touch with myself a long time ago, and I'm waking up. I don't know, and it's hard for me to talk about this because I feel like I'm going crazy.
So can you go into what does that, like, I'm not sure what it means that what's happening that it makes it feel like you've lost yourself?
Just mostly it has to do with work. Like, I just always wanted to help people. So I became a nurse, and I mean, that desire was like when my dad died. I felt that I took care of him a lot, like feeding him and stuff like that. And I think that's why I went into the nursing home field. And I was fine up until I got divorced and my ex-husband passed away. And then, like, about a year ago, I slept a lot. I mean, my hours were crazy too, but I slept a lot. I cried all the time. I mean, not that I didn't mourn his death, but I felt like I mourned more for my kids, and everything became so overwhelming, like, especially at work, because I work in a nursing home, and it was very hard for me to go back there because I'd worked there in the past, and it was so negative. And I was not myself. Like, I knew I'm not a negative person. I never was. But all of a sudden at work, I've never had any issues going to work. It was the negativity, and it made me, like, act like I didn't like my job. And it's hard for me to say because I love my job, because I work with people, but I don't feel that I help them. I still don't feel like I help them.
Well, why don't we talk a little bit about what it means to be empathic? And being empathic has a lot to do with when you get into environments or around physical people, you can actually absorb that energy. Also, you can absorb the emotions from spirits that have passed on. So if you have loved ones around you that have passed, you can actually feel their physical pain or their emotional states attached to something. So what that will do is actually start making you feel like you're not yourself. Or you can be in an environment and come in contact with a physical person and feel their pain or emotion. And you, like I said, you'll literally feel like you're not yourself. Like, you know, these aren't your emotions. I grew up literally saying stuff to people like, I'm angry, but I don't know why. Like, I know I'm personally not angry, or that I'm not normally, like, I don't normally feel like this. I'm not normally angry or depressed, but for some reason I'm feeling like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, it does. It's still kind of like confusing at the same time. But it's like kind of how I don't know, I used to take care of my mom too. She lived with us and she was there, you know, when he passed, and she's been with us since my youngest was 8 months old and she's 7 now. But she developed Alzheimer's, and I felt really bad with her being at the house because of her state of mind. I mean, would that affect me? You know, like my
Absolutely.
state of mind, I don't know. Like I slept and cried all the time. And now it's like I'm overcoming this, I think, but I'm just learning to live in the present. But I just feel like I miss so much time with my kids because of working and sleeping. When it wasn't always like that. I could work and sleep and function at home, you know, with them and for them. It just all changed.
What you need to realize is when people are empathic and when they absorb energy and they're in these really high stressful moments or very personal, emotional times for them, when it has to do with connections to their own family members and stuff, it becomes very, very overwhelming because you're trying to deal with your own grief and your own emotions and deal with your child's and home environment emotions, and then the people that you're trying to take care of at work, and then your loved ones too. So you're like a huge energy sponge, and you just start soaking all of that up at once. So you have to learn how to start deciphering and disconnecting and going, okay, these aren't my emotions. These are this person's emotions. And you making the comment of living in the present, like that's really important. And that's really when I think of like grounding or centering, I think of it as two different things. And for me to ground is being very much in the physical now, like literally to be in my physical now. It's not thinking about anything in the past. It's not connecting to any other person's emotions or pain. It's being 100% attached to myself. And when you learn how to disconnect and when you learn how to ground yourself in the physical now, a lot of that stuff melts off. It goes away. And it starts going back to the person it needs to go to. However, the reason why you're drawn to helping people and the reason why you're drawn to the field that you're in is because of you can feel their emotions and that need to help. So you need to have that connection sometimes because it tells you, when somebody is in need. So sometimes you actually want to be connected to somebody's emotions or their physical pain so you can understand what they're going through. So for me, that's what I call centering, is when I kind of keep myself one foot in the physical and grounded and will allow myself to absorb somebody else's emotions or pain, but without it completely overtaking me and affecting me. But for you, like the very first thing you need to learn how to do is how to disconnect and how to ground yourself in the now. Kat, do you have anything to add here?
Yeah, and I find in order to accomplish that, sometimes visualizing is very helpful to, because you sort of have to get your brain on board with this sort of etheric experience that you're having that you can't see. The brain wants to experience things in a very tangible way with information that it can compute, and then it can process it into something that it understands. And when we start talking about, like this energy spinning off from my aura, your brain is like, what are you talking about? I can't see that. So your brain comes into conflict with your emotional center. And so from just sort of an energy standpoint, you actually have energetic centers that are sort of clusters of nerve endings in the body. And there's one in the groin, right in the center of your pelvic area. There's one just below the belly button. There's one about 2 inches above the belly button, just below your rib cage, the solar plexus. There's one in your heart. There's one in your...
Bye, guys. I'll listen to the recording later.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye-bye. There's one in your throat. There's one in your forehead, and there's one at the top of your head. And each one is represented by a color. And from bottom to top, it's red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. And then up above, it's like white or high-tone gold. And you can remember the colors. It's the colors of the color wheel, Roy G. Biv. And so from top to bottom, it's red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. And so in your emotional center, you're going to feel that they're your chakras, right? So in your emotional centers, they're called chakras. They're nerve endings, but they're known as chakras. And it's CHARKA, chakra. And you can concentrate on each one of those places in your body and clear out energy. You thinking of the color. So if you're thinking of your root chakra, which is where a lot of people ground, they'll like imagine the root coming out of their pelvic region right to the center of the earth and anchoring there to keep them sort of here and present and in the now. And you can imagine that red beam of light going from you to the center of the earth to keep you present and here. And in your sort of concentration on that area, you would say, only my energy is in my chakra, and I release all the energy that doesn't belong to me, and I send it back to the people who it belongs to. And you kind of need to repeat that and do that over again, because as stressful as it is to feel these other energies in our field, we do get used to it, and it becomes like a habit, and you get comfortable in it, even though it's uncomfortable. So you'll tend to pull the energy back when you find that you've sent it away. So you have to kind of keep that clearing, and it's called clearing your chakras. And you can concentrate on each color one at a time and go through and clear out each one of these centers just by basically, you sort of pray in a way, or you meditate in a way to release the energy that doesn't belong to you and keep the energy that belongs to you. So that's sort of the initial, just in the very simplest form, the way to separate yourself from energy that doesn't belong to you, so that you can start to get clear and deal with your own emotions wrapped around these very, you sort of had one heavy-hitting emotional situation after another in your own personal life, and then you're dealing with people who are at the end of life on a daily basis. That's a heavy load. So you need to separate out what belongs to you and what you're picking up from these people who are around you and their family. I mean, you're in an emotional tempest, and so in order for you to keep from sleeping all the time, keep clarity, being able to be present with your children, you've got to find that place that's you and give back all the energy that doesn't belong to you. so that you can deal with your own emotional set and get through that, because you can't help people. You're saying you want to help people. You can't help people and be clear if you're carrying around. It's like, I don't know, it's like trying to cook in a dirty kitchen. You can't find anything. You don't have the right pot. It just isn't going to work. So, you've got to clean the kitchen before you can start cooking for other people. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm sorry.
No, it's, you know what? It is a complete release. You haven't been recognized or honored in the load that you've been carrying. And, Sirena and I are both feeling all of your emotion, and it's overwhelming, and you haven't had a release. So turn into a puddle if you need to. I mean, it's absolutely okay.
So what happens is when you are an empathic person and you take on other people's emotions and you want to help them because you can feel those emotions and that need, is there, that desire, then we actually put off helping ourselves. It's very, very, very common. I think just about any empathic or intuitive person I've ever talked to this has happened at, one time or another, or you have to kind of check yourself constantly not to give yourself to the point where you're just, breaking. For you to recognize that you want to be more present in your life and for your kids, that's huge. That's the first step. That's putting that intent out there. And when you leave the nursing home at night, you want to leave that energy there. So you want to basically knock all of that energy off of you. Really say a mantra, and you can really say this however you want, but I always start off my mantras by saying thank you. Thank you for leaving all emotional energy that is not mine, all negative energy, I don't care how you say it, but all energy that is not mine here with the resonance that it belongs to. Thank you for not taking my work home with me. Thank you for allowing me to be present with my children. When you start going through this journey, you're going to cry. You're going to release. Because what happens is you start getting in touch with your emotions instead of everybody else's. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm going to probably have to listen to this a couple times.
Yeah,
okay.
For sure.
I feel like I have to write everything down too, or I'll forget.
Why don't you take this in now? Because I feel like it's really important that you just let yourself feel, and then listen back and take notes based on that. But let yourself, when you have two people like me and Sirena who have done this a lot, we're actually able to help take some of that energy off of you just by talking to us and communicating with us. We can help you process it out so that you're not going to start with such a heavy load. So let your emotion out and then go back and listen, take the notes, and then start to deal with it, because you're thick. The energy in you is very thick with, it's very cloudy because of you feel like it's your responsibility to feel these people's pain for them, and it's not. No one, you weren't born with a sign, dump your shit here.
Right.
That's not your responsibility. As empaths, it's what we do naturally, and we're sort of like part of the ecosystem of humanity, and we do process and clear out emotions for other people, but it's not your job to take it all on yourself. We are interconnected, and we actually serve to help one another in that process. And then angelic guides can help you with this too, and they can help lift that load as well. But for you right now, there's no separation between your emotions and other people's. You've let your barrier down completely, and you don't need to do that. That's not fair to you. That's not fair to your life. You're not just an emotional sponge. You're a mom. You have responsibilities to people, and you have to do self-care. You have to maintain yourself. Otherwise, again, it's like if you're you have to clean out your fish tank filter, even though it's cleaning the water. Every now and again, it gets all gooped up. You're that goopy filter.
Well, also, I'd like to point out with being a mom, sometimes it's hard for us to take initiative for ourselves and say, I have to be the best I can be for myself. A lot of empathic and intuitive people just don't think like that. We won't change until our back is completely against the wall, and we absolutely have to do something for ourselves. But you're a mom, and you know what empathic people are really good at doing? Doing things for other people. So if that is your initiative to start clearing out some of your emotions, then let it be your initiative, because kids are emotional sponges themselves. And regardless if you aren't verbalizing things, let me tell you, those emotions seep through every pore of your body, and your kids react to them.
John?
I know, I can tell.
Well, and they can help lift the load too. You know how when you play with your children and you're feeling uplifted, you're clearing out some of that energy, and they're helping with that too. It's innate. I mean, it's what we do as human beings. It just when it gets all piled on together, it starts to get to be a bit much, and you haven't had the sort of support or knowledge to be able to sort of help yourself in getting to that place of clarity. Who's joined us?
John Meadows.
Hey.
Hey, it was jump on. I'm vibrating high today.
Excellent.
Good. So, John, meet Melissa.
Hi, John.
Melissa, you.
It's nice to meet you, too.
Where is Catz?
Your phone is going in and out, and it does it a lot when I talk to you. It's like...
Where is Catz?
I'm right here.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
You too. You too. I'm glad you could make it.
I'll put myself on mute.
Well, feel free to chime in whenever.
Well, feel free to ask me questions.
Okay.
While we're sitting here, I'm actually, I started to sketch a diagram of exactly what I'm talking about with the chakras, and I'm gonna sit here and doodle in illustrate. I'll create an illustration that will kind of give you a visual that will help you to understand kind of what we're talking about here with the chakras and the energy centers in the body. Do you have any, what do you feel is sort of your most pressing emotional issue right now?
Oh my God, I was just going to ask that.
He must be psychic.
That's crazy. Yeah, what do you think right now, what's the one thing that if you could clear up today right now, what would it be? Melissa?
It's just hard to, there's just seems like so much. I want to be able to clear things up, like you said, when leaving work, because I want to be able to come home and function. But at the same time, it's throughout I don't really work that much anymore. I took myself down to what I thought I could handle, because even 2 nights in a row, it takes me about 2 more days to get back into my routine, or my day mode, and because that throws me off. That throws me off too, shifting my whole...
Right.
sleep, I guess. But at the same time, it's like I sleep no matter what. I'm sitting here feeling exhausted. Like I can go lay down and go to sleep.
Well, that's what happens. You have to understand, like when you're empathic, you're absorbing all this energy, and it's literally like working out all day long. When I would do readings before, I used to literally want to sleep for 12 hours. I'd be on these weird cycles where, like, I either couldn't sleep at all or I would just sleep for what seemed to be, like, ever. Well, what was happening is when I was awake, I didn't have any blocks up. So I was just absorbing all this energy nonstop of people, places, things, spirits. So then it was wiping me out, and I would just pass out. Or sometimes I would try to go to sleep, and I'd have all these spirits around me or all this energy kind of pulling at me to get my attention, and I didn't realize that's what was going on. And my mind would just sit there and race. So it was like one or the other. Now, if I were to go talk to a counselor about this, they would have listed me as bipolar because I had manic stages, and I would have these depressed stages where I would sleep a lot. But I was never a depressed person, ever. I've just never naturally been a depressed person. So I knew that it didn't make sense for that type of diagnosis for me. And once I started to understand how energy works and how we absorb it, I started to get a better picture of actually what was going on. And then I started to try to learn whatever blocks would work for me. It's very individualized. Is there anything on the spiritual level that speaks to you? Are you drawn to anything in particular? Like, are you a religious person?
No, I've been thinking about that lately, though. You know, like church and God and just universe and manifestation and
so
like I feel. I'm sorry, what's that?
Are you drawn to like animals, or can you visualize things really good?
I've been drawn like past couple of years to like gardening, desire to grow things outside. I don't know, like taking care of plants and
Okay, so nature. So you're really drawn to nature. So that would be a really good grounding technique for you to learn. So one of the things that I had realized is sometimes being around certain people or environments, it just gets too overwhelming. I'll start to feel all this anxiety, or I'll start getting these emotional like waves, and I don't really understand it, and then I'll get really sleepy because I just absorbed all this energy. So what I had realized is simply walking outside of that environment and standing on grass, or, you know, literally like barefoot, or just going outside and taking deep breaths really helps release that energy, and it refocuses me. Also being drawn to the outdoors, you might want to look into aromatherapy or anything with like herbs, like saging or, burning natural herbs.
Like those incense?
Right.
Sage, I mean, maybe Nag Champa, but what she's talking about is like smudging. And when you burn sage, it has a very cleansing effect. You clean your environment because you're not clearing everything out. You're actually sort of creating, the fog is moving into your space. And so when you smudge or you use the sage, it helps to clear some of that out and release some of it. And I agree with Sirena 100%, like gardening, just, even if you do little flower beds or herb gardens or things like that, that's very grounding. It completely it's a paradigm shift.
Can I share something?
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, as far as nature, and we have this bush out here. For the past few days, it's had one single bloom on it. And that's just makes me stand there and stare at it sometimes for a while.
So you seem to feel at peace in nature. You have a connection with it, right?
Yeah.
So when we talk about meditation, and we talk about, which is the same as grounding or centering yourself, a lot of people think that meditation is sitting there going, and closing their eyes or listening to music and trying to get all thoughts out of their head. Meditation is actually that act of being calm, peaceful, and in the now. So, one of the most calm, peaceful things that I can do is art. I'll sit there and paint, and I'm in my own world, like nothing affects me when I'm painting. Everything comes out on canvas. So it's not actually the act of sitting there, not trying to focus on my thoughts or focusing on my breathing. It is the act of displacing that energy and putting my concentration into something that makes me peaceful. I will also, when I'm really stressed, I'll clean, because the act of cleaning for me kind of works out that stress and anxiety. So it sounds like nature is really good for you, to get out there and just kind of get your hands dirty or just sit outside. When you're drawn to that, I really, really encourage to follow through with that. Now, if you can't, or it gets really cold out, really think about bringing like indoor, plants into your house that you can care for, or doing something more like indoor. Like my friend makes these, she calls them terrariums, like the little terrariums, but she's like really, really connected to fairies. So she makes these with plants, all different types of plants in it, and people can get them customized and grow herbs and stuff in there. She might want to think about something like that if you're limited on space, or if, it gets cold or whatever. But I would highly suggest bringing some plants inside, something that you can cater to, something that you can watch grow, something that you can just play in the dirt when you're feeling down.
You're also caring for something which is your inclination without a cost to you, which you haven't done. Every sort of act of caring that you do at this time comes with an attachment of somebody else's need. And with a plant, I mean, basically you water it and and it gives you flowers. And that's nice. We like that.
Yeah.
Do you have any other questions? I'd really like to figure out some techniques for you that you can actually start incorporating today. We've talked about a couple, but I would like, kind of your point of view on this. What do you feel drawn to? Do you feel that you can visualize something, or do you have a problem visualizing things? Or are you at the point where, like, I'm just going to try anything and everything?
That's where I'm at. Anything and everything, like...
and that's not a bad point.
I don't know, like even now, with the kids home, they haven't started school, but I just feel like I don't have enough time to myself. And I don't know how I can take that time without taking it from my family,
right,
or from my work,
do you
and
work out?
from my sleep. But no, I don't.
Exercise can be a really good time to get that alone time. It's something that everybody understands. It doesn't. It isn't. It's good for you so that you can be good for other people. And so nobody says, oh, well, she's abandoning her children for the gym. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you don't have that guilt feeling. It really is good for you and necessary. But also, if you incorporate yoga into a workout and that kind of stretching, that helps move all of the energy that you've got kind of stuck at the moment. And that can be a very, you don't need to study to do it. The yoga poses are all out there on the internet. It's simple. It feels great. It doesn't take a long time. But the effects on you energetically are profound, and can really because what you in addition to chakras, you have channels in your body that run energy. It's where your chi flows, and as you get emotionally stopped up, the chi stops flowing properly, and when you do those physical stretches, you actually reopen those channels. It's like breaking the binding on a book. So you're able to get that energy flowing again, and you can start to release some of it, because right now you've got everything, you're just holding on to all of it like it's yours, and it's not yours to hold on to. It's in order for it to be fully processed, you have to let it go. And doing the yoga stretches, and like Sirena was saying, bring plants indoors, being in the dirt, all of those things can help. Art is another great way to do it, because you're dealing in color. It's soothing. It gets your mind out of the emotional place and gets you focusing on light and shadow, and sort of it's not a taxing thought process, So all of those things that you do to unwind and relax, all the things that kids do, when kids are pent up, when their energy is jacked, they go run around like apes. They climb on monkey bars, they hang upside down, and then they go build stuff, and then they go draw in color, and then they paint your walls. And then when they cook, they don't just cook, they make huge messes. And all of that is release, and we get trained out of that, So there's the whole, release your inner child. You don't have to release your inner child, but just give it some go on a play date with yourself. Yeah.
Right.
Let her out.
I'm really glad that you're talking about the whole child connection, because I think that a lot of people believe that having time for ourselves is like a space by ourselves. And that's not necessarily the situation. It's really a state of mind. And when I was talking about these things that really put you in this meditative state of being, of peacefulness, you can incorporate that with your children and have the proper exchange of energy. The way that energy is supposed to work, the natural cycle of energy, is giving and receiving. All you do right now is give, and you're not receiving any energy back. So when you're looking at your time with your kids, that is, how can I cater to my kids, not how can I help them while they help me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you can actually make everything with your family run more efficiently just by incorporating some of the things that are very meditative to you. Pull them outside, get them dirty, let them play in the dirt with you. It's something that you enjoy, and you're still being a mother to them, but you're also getting your meditative needs met. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I just, I've a lot of these ideas, even the chakras, and I've read a little bit into those, and I bought some pendulums and the yoga. I got the yoga mat and and stuff.
Bring your kids into yoga.
It's just
They'll
I
show
have
you
all
what
these
to do.
I open them up.
The whole thing I'm getting, you're saying I've got all these things. Like, you're being guided on what to do, but for some reason you feel like you're not allowed. And I feel that huge, like, I feel like I need, like you're saying, anything that I feel like I need to do for myself, I'm not allowed to do. And you need to just stop that.
Right.
Because it's not serving you at all. But you as we're talking, it's like you've got caution signs coming up, like, oh, they're telling me stuff that I'm not allowed to do. And you're completely allowed to do all of this. You make the rules for yourself, A. B, your obligations to other people have been met to the best of your ability. And the thing that you're recognizing is that by not allowing yourself to do the things that you need for self-care, it actually is inhibiting your ability to do the thing that you're saying you have to do that makes you not allowed to do anything. You know what I mean?
Well, right, because you set up your boundaries as a mother and what your kids are allowed to do and what they're not. But what it's turned into is basically you just kind of catering to them and looking at their needs, and this is what I have to do for them. And I do agree with Catz 100% that you have to take that initiative and say, this is important. This is what I want. It's okay for me to want these. However, the reality of the situation is, let's be honest, you're not going to do that today. And this is why I suggest incorporating some of the things that are going to help you get into that peaceful place with your kids, because it's going to get you into that mode of thinking of going, this is okay for me to have. This is okay for me to do this. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's really
no one's ever
hard.
recognized this in you. I mean, you feel like you've been by yourself for so long.
I do, and I don't know, I'm afraid people are going to judge me or...
We don't care what they think.
Right.
I know.
We're going to help you fix that.
I had this conversation earlier with myself. Definitely don't care what other people think.
No craps are given. Ain't nobody got time for that.
That's why, and that's a really, really hard concept to get over. It's a really hard concept to say, because we look at it as being selfish, but it's okay. It is, in order for us to be able to give, we have to be willing to receive. And in order for us to receive energetically, that is being in our meditative, happy place, because what that does is it regenerates our energy. It gives us more energy to be able to give. Right now, you don't have any energy to give because you've given it all away, and now you're just sleeping. That's not being there for your kids. That is sleeping because you're depleted and you don't have anything else to give. But to just put that concept out there and say, this is what you need to do, right now, today, that is very counterproductive. Because right now, today, you are still stuck in the mind frame of feeling like you're going to be judged, or feeling like you're not going to be able to do something efficiently, or feeling like you don't have the time for yourself. So I can't encourage you enough to really start taking some of these things that you love and incorporating them with your family, with your kids, because it's going to slowly help you get out of that mind frame and let you really realize, like, these things are all good things to have in my life and in my home.
Well, and your ultimate goal is to be better at doing your list of supposed to's, right? You have a whole list of things that you're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. And your whole concern is that by allowing yourself to help yourself, you're going to somehow compromise your ability to do all of your list of supposed tos, but in reality, if you don't start to do these self-care mechanisms, you actually are going to make it very difficult for yourself to accomplish your supposed to list. So, and that's that's actually what is physically happening to you. You have this list of things that you're supposed to do, and instead of being able to do them, you've gotten yourself into a position where you've just sort of shut down because you've overwhelmed yourself. So doing all these really simple things that take nothing from anyone and give so much back to you will get your supposed to list back on track. So, and the other thing, just to be aware that, everyone is empathic to one degree or another. We are interconnected, and whether we like it or not, or we choose to recognize it or not, we are able to feel each other and experience each other through these connections that we share. And so what you're doing isn't out of the norm. It isn't, you're not going on some, vision quest out in the desert or anything like that. You're just doing the basic things that you need to do to take care of yourself and take care of your children. And it's totally, totally, totally okay.
Your supposed to list needs to start with you.
Right.
That's like the number one thing that should be on anybody's supposed to list. Because every day starts with us. And then everything else in our lives we're connected to, but it's still us. Does that make sense? You are not your kids. You are not your job. You are you. And you have to make that vessel of you run the best you possibly can. So all these people that are in your life, you can enjoy them for who they are and what they are. But they're not you. Everything's just around you. You have to think of it like that. Even though we birth these kids, you can look at your kids and they're individuals. They might have similar features. They might have similar attitudes. They might seem to be an extension of you, but they're very much themselves. And I don't know how old your kids are, but you will really realize that when they get to the talking backstage.
Yeah, I've had one that my little one. I don't know. It's like I feel her feel what I feel. It's so confusing.
Well, because they do.
She does.
You have empathic children, so your children are more sensitive than...
Well, this is the thing. If you look at the natural cycle of children, and one, you have to realize that this cycle is incredibly amped up in the children that are born today because we're in this stage of awakening and being more connected with our natural spiritual beings, because we're not these human beings having a spiritual experience. We're these spiritual beings having a human experience. So the natural cycle of the way children grow, or what's in most common health books, for the first 6 months of a child's life, they communicate strictly through emotion. And that's because we're built as human beings to communicate through body language. And the way that our body reacts is through our emotional response. So we have this emotional response, and then our body reacts to that. So for the first 6 months, they communicate solely through emotions. Well, that's even more enhanced now, because those freaking health books was written, 50, 100 years ago? So you're going to see this in your children more. They're going to respond more to your emotional side than ever before. But it's very natural for children to respond to our emotions. That's how we're built to communicate anyways. They're just more in touch with it because they're innocent and they haven't had experience in life to shut them up and push them down and, not want to express what they're feeling. So it's when I said about, if you need to do this for your children, if you need to get into a better place for your children, then by all means, use your children to get yourself in a better place. If today you can't say, I can be a little selfish and I can take personal time to myself, then do it for your children and incorporate things in with your kids so you start getting comfortable with that. But I do promise you, the more emotionally at peace you are yourself, the more emotionally at peace your children are going to be. They're going to follow suit. We lead by example. Our children are conditioned creatures. They're very much a product of their environment. And there's other factors in there too, but the environment really has a lot to do with how a child acts. John.
Yes.
Would you like to add anything into this?
Well, I've just been scribing notes, and I have to first say I love how both of you are presenting, basically common techniques that will take away stress or even anxiety, which obviously in turn allows a person to operate more efficiently. And so I've just been looking or listening to some common themes, and correct me if I'm wrong because I just came on the call probably 20 minutes after you started, but I like what Catz had said about being overwhelmed, because when we position ourselves to that state of mind / being overwhelmed, everything looks daunting. So instead of being able to focus or concentrate on one thing, we're looking at it holistically, and I think that's where energy starts to get zapped, and then instead of attending to some of the things that we really need to, it's easier just to push them away and say, take a nap. I'll nap myself out of it, and when I wake up, things will look a little bit differently. Or, right from the get-go, you can have a list of techniques, but it's still overwhelming to go, where do I start? So I love the fact, I believe it was you, Sirena, who said, basically incorporate this. Well, both of you mentioned it. Incorporate your family into these basic exercises, because then I don't think it becomes so daunting. And you don't really have to say, oh, my God, I have to do 25 things today to raise myself out of where I am or where I think I am or who people want me to be. So going through all that, I say establish a safety plan for yourself, because we all do know if you do not take care of the caregiver, then it's impossible to take care of anyone else. So a lot of times what I do with people is, in terms of reflection, is what is most important to you, and start with those steps in making a list. Because if you can get that down on paper to say what is important, then you can really start to rewrite the things that you say to yourself that may be a little off. So, for example, if the yoga is something that's possible and that you can incorporate your kids, because I think it's a phenomenal idea, then start with yoga. If it is simply taking a walk to clear your mind, to readjust, and even working on some breathing there, because that is a good way to reset that nervous system to say, okay, this isn't going to seem so daunting. And then you have a fresher frame of mind that you can attack whatever situation / problem is, and then come up with some solutions. So everything you both have said, I think it's right on the money. And it's even been remindful to myself things that I need to do consistently, because we know it's easier to take care of others than it is to take care of ourselves.
I have lost you guys. Sorry. I had to call back in.
No worries.
Are you
hung up.
Just lottery numbers? Just kidding.
The lottery numbers. Can we do like a whole focus group on just lottery numbers?
Hell yes. I'm in. I'll get myself a scrying bowl. I'll pull out the juju.
I definitely need some lottery numbers.
And the thing is that you do have a support team, and that's very crucial to when you personally or not think, oh, nobody understands me, nobody gets this, this is horrific, I'm sleeping all the time, which does equate to, modern day physical world, situational or more organic based depression. However, if you can start to kind of turn those things around, as Sirena stated, even in a slow manner, you do start to change and the production side of things. So I know it's easy to sit back and go, okay, I heard them say this and this and this and this, but I still don't know where to begin. So instead of beginning, I just do nothing. I've been there. No matter how educated I become in the world of, outside of teaching school, I also work in therapy. So I can sit across someone else with someone else and process, but when it comes to myself, I'm always like I think it was Catz that told me in a message one night, and I laughed. She's like, you're like a dog off its leash. And I'm like, well, that is true on occasion, because constantly running. I've got to do this, I've got to do that. And I don't take the time to really synthesize with myself to be good with myself. So, just starting somewhere. And that's empowerment right there, to make that step forward doing something. And then maybe each day you add on to that, thinking, okay, I'm going to step outside of that box. I'm going to step outside of my comfort zone, and I'm going to do one thing that I normally would not do for myself that is going to eventually equate to, I got this. And you've got two on this phone to help you.
And the one thing you don't want to do is to think that there's a right or wrong way to do this. Mm-hmm. Trust me, there's not a right or wrong way to do this. I looked for a manual, and there isn't one. And so it's very individualized. And the sleeping aspect really, really speaks to me, because when I was younger, I grew up in a very abusive household, and my defense mechanism is I would shut down and I'd get sleepy. If I would get too stressed out, I would just literally go to sleep. And that, because my dream state, that was my happy state. I got really good at lucid dreaming and turning, my dreams into any reality I wanted them to. So that was my defense mechanism. I can't deal with it. I don't like my reality. I'm going to create a new one. That's how I'd escape. And that literally transpired for years and years and years into my adult life, to where I was basically narcoleptic. Like, I would get stressed out and I could just pass out anywhere. It didn't matter. I could be in the grass or in someone's car or at someone's house, and I just didn't want to deal with shit, so I'd shut down and boom, go to sleep.
Right.
How do you feel now, Melissa?
I'm listening, and I just want to thank you all. I'm laying back in my bed. I feel like I could go to sleep. It feels like so much clarity, but it just seems so overwhelming at the same time.
Okay.
And once again, other thoughts too.
Well, and that has a lot to do with the whole thought of starting something new becomes overwhelming, or taking time for ourselves, or, oh my God, am I going to mess this up? Is somebody going to judge me for this or that? That has a lot to do with, just that negative thought process that eventually you will start to break. You know how Catz said, like, today is not about taking notes. Today is about you just kind of feeling your way through this, and listening and then going back and taking notes.
I agree.
I just came on. I'm Jody. Hi, Serena.
Hi, Jody.
Hi, Jody.
Serena. Hi.
Hey, Jody.
I got on because I just got home, so sorry I got into this a little late. Serena knows I talked to her a little bit, but I need to find out how to accept and how to prepare myself for something. I'm discovering a lot about myself as I get older, and the one very hard one to deal with that I've had a few occurrences of now is my dad was dying from emphysema, and the last time that I saw him, and I walked him up to his bed in my sister's house and put him to bed, and percussed his back, and I could look right in his eyes, and I knew he was getting ready, and it wasn't going to be that night, but I just could sense it's his time. And then it wasn't but a few nights after that I got called that my dad did pass away. And I could see it in his eyes. I could feel it. I could sense it. We just had a recent 25-year-old nephew die suddenly. And the weekend before he died, I was at the lake, and my husband and I were real close to him. He was home in Indiana, but I just kept crying that day, and I could not figure out why. I'm not PMS anymore. I'm too old for that. I just could not put my finger on it. And then that night, his parents took off for Indiana because he got hospitalized and put into ICU and in a pretty bad state. And then the following week, he died. But I was even texting him. He would kind of text a little bit back and forth because he was pretty confused. But I can't figure out. I feel like I'm doing things backwards. I'm knowing I can feel something before they're gone, instead of what I'd like to do is be able to reach out to them after they're crossed over. And it's a little disheartening, a little unsettling.
So your question is really how to sort of open up so you could communicate.
How
across
can
the
I
barrier.
accept that how can I accept that that's one of the abilities that I have, and be able to welcome it, I suppose, and tap into it more, because I've had more of that. That's very strong with me. I get a lot of visits and shadows and animals and butterflies and birds and all. I know what all that stuff is, but it's the pre-death sadness that I like. How do I deal with that one? Because I don't really know at that time that they're going to die. I just feel very, very sad. I didn't know if anybody else gets that or has that happen.
So first of all, I don't know if there's one thing specific you can actually do. I have found that when it comes to my own loved ones or signs for myself, it's harder for me personally to identify them. I usually don't identify with them until after the fact. Oh, I was feeling that way that day because of this. I get it now. And I try to accept that, and I hope that I will get it moving forward if that happens again. But when I find myself in the midst of one of those situations, I will literally feel like, oh, my God, I know something's going to go on. I know something's happening, but I don't know what it is. I still, I still have how it's kind of putting my finger on it.
Right.
So one thing that I try to do during those times is this is where I really want to talk about the difference between, like, for me, grounding and centering. I was saying earlier that grounding for me is like literally putting myself in the physical now. It's stepping away from all the other energies and only being my physical self. And then centering is allowing that energy to come in. So what I do when I really am feeling something that I can't put my finger on, I will actually write messages for myself. And I think this is something that would be good for you to do, just knowing you, because you do get visits. And the thing is, I think for you, if you give them an outlet to write, then not only will you receive, those messages for yourself during those times of like panic and not understanding what's going on, but you will also give your loved ones an outlet to talk to you, which will help you with a lot of the empathic feelings that you get, like from your dad.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm sorry, but your asthma did not start until after he passed.
What's that?
Your asthma, like the problems that you had.
Yeah, they didn't.
And that's your dad being around you. But if you don't give him that outlet to talk, and giving him that outlet to talk is literally putting that thought and that intent out in the universe, going, I know this is spirit. I know these feelings are attached to spirit. This isn't me. It doesn't have to actually be in a mantra. It doesn't have to be a conscious thought. Subconsciously, it gets out there, and that starts giving you that physical disconnect. So to center, to allow that information in without affecting you so bad, I will literally kind of like shake everything off, and I will take a deep breath through my nose, and I will hold it for 4 seconds in my stomach, and I will release through my nose very slowly. And I might have to do this a couple of times, but then I grab a pen and paper, and I just say, it depends on what information I'm trying to get. But one thing that I always say is, thank you for my guides being present and, giving me whatever information I'm looking for and answering this question, or whoever, thank you for whoever's being present, clearly talking to me and tell me what they're trying to tell me. The thing is, when it comes to your end-of-life cycle, your physical end-of-life cycle, your spirit starts to detach from your physical body. It's like a transition. It's like a, how do I say it? It's almost like a defense mechanism. So your body doesn't get thrown into shock, and your spirit doesn't get stuck here. A lot of the spirits that I encounter that choose to stay here is because they died so suddenly that they don't really even understand the concepts of crossing over. When you start reaching that point of your actual time of death, which I feel weird saying this, I don't know if there's an actual time of death, but but when you're getting close to like the end of your energy cycle, your spiritual body will start detaching. And it's not uncommon for sensitive people to start receiving messages from someone as if they've actually passed. That has happened to me. I had Chad's grandma come to me like just as if I was talking to a spirit before she passed, and then that would get more and more frequent the closer it got to her passing. And so, or I will start feeling that like that anxiety and heaviness. And I'm like, okay, something's going to happen. The best advice I can give you on that, for real, is when you feel that, know, okay, this is attached to somebody that I know. This is, this is gonna strike my heart chakra. That's why you're feeling that. You're basically feeling your emotions attached to that before it happens, not his. So it's really to actually prepare you.
A really good way to think about it, just to interject really quick, is you know how when you have children, right?
I have a child, yes, and a grandson.
Okay. So when you're pregnant and you're early in your pregnancy, there's life there, but the larger it gets, the more present that life force becomes in your life force. And it's the exact same process as people leave. As they detach, their life force that's been a part of you so much starts to sort of let you know what's up. And imagine 150 million years ago or whenever we first started, it was it was something we needed to have, to be able to kind of have that sixth sense. When are we in danger? When is somebody going to be nearing their transition from life to death? These are things that are hardwired into us, but we've surrounded ourselves in nice homes and comfortable surroundings, and that sort of dampens that. But so rather than being a natural part of our own life and death experience, it becomes this really shocking, oh my gosh, why am I feeling this way? But it's absolutely very much a part of the human experience to be aware of that. And so as that person's transitioning from this form to the next, they do move further away, as Sirena was saying, and through that transition process, why can't I hear them on the other side? Well, they're really out of your realm. And you're dealing with them in the physical, even though it feels spiritual, you're still within that sort of life to life, life to death transition as you're interacting with them. And as they go on the other side and sort of escape your awareness, that's sort of your being physically here in this world. Yeah. Opening up your crown chakra and getting messages from the other side, and all of that sounds great.
What isn't so much sometimes, especially when I'm taking on the
what you wish for.
Traits. Yeah.
Just know that there are people here who can help deliver messages and information to you. You don't necessarily need to be the mailman to get the letter. So it's not. It may not be what you necessarily want, and that's something to consider.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep myself healthy.
If you do want to pursue it, you have to get very disciplined with yourself, and you have to go through meditation. You have to work your chakras. You have to, and there are some people who never really close that down, so they're kind of put in a situation where crap, there are ghosts in my living room. What do I do now? And that's a little different than I want to go find ghosts in my living room.
That's what I need to do for my own health, because like Serena knows me, I have developed asthma, which I never had as a kid, asthma and allergies, and I got that from my father, but I got them after he passed, and now that I'm adult. And for Richard, my nephew, he was a drinker, and he was having some liver problems. Other than that, still a healthy young 25-year-old guy, and I believe he was having seizures when he was in the hospital. And I have been, since he passed, so shaky and jerky, and it's like almost embarrassing. I'm trying to be at work, and people are like, no, I'm not nervous at all, and I don't even notice that I'm shaking so much.
So I want to talk about that for a second, because there is a difference, like Catz was saying, like once they transition over, you receive your signs differently. So in the beginning, when you start feeling that anxiety, it is very much their spiritual side starting to disconnect. You have to understand our spiritual side is like pure emotion. How we relate to people is, and what we remember them for is that, very interpersonal communication, that emotional bond you have with them through all these different experiences. So when it comes to the concept of death, or thinking about death, or when we start approaching the death stage, we actually respond. It's a very selfish response to death. It has nothing to do with actually how that person is feeling. It is, oh my God, we are not going to have those experiences anymore with this person. It is our response to them physically not being here. So that anxiety that you feel has nothing to do with him feeling anxiety of him passing. It has to do with your spiritual side, going, I'm about ready to lose this person. Yeah. And I'm not going to have those emotional experiences with them. So then once they pass, when they come to you and they try to get your attention for the empathic, they have to, they're empathic, how do I say this? It's like they have to figure out a way to get through to you, because you're still kind of stuck in your personal, selfish ways of thinking this person isn't here. So when you think of them, you get anxiety, you get grief, and then they have to work through that. So they have to figure out another way to communicate with you. And they're going, hey, don't worry, I'm here. So if you're emotional over them, what's the best way to get your attention? It's something physical. So you'll start to feel their physical symptoms of what they had. And it should be nothing more than their physical cue to you that they're around. So that's when you need to center yourself and say, okay, Dad, what are you trying to tell me here? Like, let me write this down. When you write, it gives you a physical disconnect, and it allows that information to come through. Even if you think you know what you're writing, I guarantee when you go back and you read that stuff, you're like, oh, wait a minute. Maybe I don't know what you're talking about. So you have to realize that they have to work differently. So even though they're not feeling that pain in the metaphysical state that they're in, they have to turn their signals into something physical for us to experience because we're in the physical. So they're going to work off of their own database of what they know and what they know you know to communicate with you. So, you know, your dad had asthma. So he knows, okay, she should recognize this as me.
Yeah. Well,
does that
he needs to back it off a little. Absolutely, he needs to back it off a little so I can get to work.
and this is the thing. Once you start making that connection to them and going, okay, here, I'm giving you an outlet to talk. I know you're around. So here you go. It's literally like putting that subconscious thought out there of you saying, I know this is related the door. To him.
Yeah.
So
is there like one main book or something that I can use?
Wish. If you find it, if you find it, please, I would like a copy. I know I didn't receive the rule book. But
I know when Jack died, there's no time to say goodbye. It was like the perfect book right then. But I want at least a one book right now that'll just set something off that makes sense to me, and that I can focus on for a little while until I delve into all the other things there is.
Well, I think for you, your next level is start doing that, like acknowledgement and disconnect. And I think you're going to get that through writing. I really, really do. And once you start putting it out there, because right now, even if you say, I know the asthma's with Dad, Dad, you need to talk, you need to cut that out, or, I can't breathe when you're around. Can you come to me in a different way? You're still not, you're not allowing him to talk. So it's like somebody trying to get your attention. You know, it's like if somebody's trying to get your attention and you're out in the street and they're calling your name and you're not responding, eventually they're going to run up and grab you going, hey, bitch, why aren't you listening to me? I'm sitting here yelling.
Makes sense. I get a lot of that, too. Turn around, just
I just want to add on to what Serena is saying really quick. I feel you absolutely know what they're trying to tell you, that you've already had the conversation with yourself a million times. You know 100% what the message is. It has to do with you loving yourself for sure. And the choices that you're making and the concern that they have for you about it, and the rabbit holes that you allow yourself to go down. And like, what I mean, I understand you're looking for answers. You have them 100%. You already know. I guarantee it. This is and so do you go to church?
I do. Not as often as I'd like, because we're up in the league a lot, but
it's time to get back into that habit.
Okay. I've been wanting to.
Yeah. No, that'll help a lot, because you know what you're supposed to do. You know what the messages are, and rather than listening to them, you're sort of throwing paint against the wall to see what the colors are. It's like you're having a really random response to what you know the message is.
Right. Yeah. So, and I do get the proper messages when I go to church. All of a sudden, it's like it hits exactly what's going on in my life or my family's life at that time, and taking young kids who've lost their brother to church with me, and boom, that whole, the whole church message affected this girl. She was like 12 at the time, just crying because it absolutely affected her and her relationship with her brother that died. And, and it's like I know who to bring with me too, or somehow I'm guided who needs the message more than I do. No,
that's where you're not correct. You need it for you. And
okay, set me straight.
No, this is all about you and self-care. No deflecting. This is absolutely 100% about taking care of yourself. And they're concerned about you joining them too soon. And that's no joke. And it's just time to pull your head out and deal with what you know you need to do.
Yep, you are right. Definitely. Now that's Catz talking, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, Catz.
Hi.
Catz, meet Jody.
Hi, Jody.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
So.
Okay. Well, I won't keep you guys. I'm going to figure out what we're doing for dinner here, but I just needed to. You said what I needed to hear. What I'm hearing is shutting out.
We're going to post some information. The meditation and stuff is great. Everything, Sirena is absolutely right, but 100% I'm getting that you already know what's what, and that you're just screwing around because you don't like the message.
Yeah.
And that isn't going to change anything, and you're you know what you need to do. The meditation, the opening up, being the empathic, all that kind of stuff, that is, sort of where we're focusing, but the stuff that you're talking about is a little bit different.
Yep. I hear you, sister.
Okay.
All right. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, too.
Okay, we'll talk to you soon, Sirena.
Okay.
All right. Have a good day, Jody.
Okay. Yep. You too. Bye.
Bye. And I am going to have to leave this call also. Thank you, absolutely, everybody, for joining. And everybody knows how to get a hold of me. Melissa, are you still on?
Yeah, I just didn't want to interrupt. I had to get going, too.
So you, my dear, are always more than welcome to reach out. It's never a hassle. I used to be just like you. Sorry for bothering you. Sorry. I think that has a lot to do with coming out of abusive situations and always feeling like we did something wrong. Because I was in a very abusive situation with my father growing up. So I always, thought I was to blame for, everything. Even if I didn't do something, say something came up missing and I didn't steal it, I would still feel guilty about it. Oh, my God. Something came up missing. Even though I had nothing to do with it, I was, oh, my God, I'm so sorry.
Well, then you start doing the stuff.
Right, exactly.
If I'm going to get blamed, at least I'm going to get something out of it.
Right. Exactly. And it's I stopped. I stopped a couple of years ago, and I said, wait a minute. I actually checked myself one time, and I was like, this guy was yelling at me, and I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm not sorry. I didn't do anything. I'm not sorry. Fuck you. I'm done being sorry for shit that I haven't done. So, sweetie, you are always more than welcome to reach out. You are never a bother. You are never a hassle at all. You never have to apologize. There's, absolutely no way you could offend me. You can try, especially if it would make you feel better. If you want to vent and go off of me, go for it.
She likes to fight.
Today I'm feisty. But, for real, honestly, it's never a hassle. I don't want you to ever hesitate reaching out. The reason why I asked you to be a part of this is because I could tell the struggle that I'm going to cry. You're going to make me cry. I could tell the struggle that you were going through because I went through that. I went through that struggle. And this was the main reason that I put this together, was for people that has went through that hardcore emotional struggle of not understanding why the things that were happening to them were happening, not understanding the emotional ups and downs. And, if I had my answer when I was younger, I would like to think that my life would have been different. Honestly, I probably wouldn't have believed it. And I ran and pushed a lot of things away when I was younger. But, if I could prevent one person from going through the struggles and the cycles that I went through of trying to cope with, just absorbing all of this energy and carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders and always feeling like I'm running out of time and never feeling like I'm good enough, then, I feel like I've done my job. So this is what this group is about. We're here to help each other. You are always more than welcome to talk about whatever you want in this group. It's completely private. You're always more than welcome to reach out to me privately if you're not comfortable talking in a group, but know you have that support there.
And the same goes for me. I'm more than happy to help. And like just in the course of this conversation, your energy has lifted. You feel lighter. You feel like things are moving in a way that they haven't in quite some time. When we get off this call, don't let that synergy, don't allow yourself to think that the synergy between us is disconnected. We are absolutely here to help you process this out. And if you want to say, okay, I sent all this garbage to Catz and Sirena and let them deal with it for tonight, we'll take it. It's not an issue. And just let yourself be free of it. I did want to say that, the last gal who was talking, some of what Sirena was saying pertains to you too. Sitting down and writing it out can be very beneficial when you're trying to sort out what's what for you. So, getting, Serena's example, getting centered rather than grounded and saying, okay, what are the messages here for me and what is my best process to deal with this? Because at the end of the day, Sirena has her experiences, John has his experiences, I have my experiences, but you're going to have to figure out, how the hoses hook up to you because you're your own machine. And so writing that out can be really helpful and beneficial. And the one last thing I wanted to add that I didn't sort of include in this, baths, taking a bath, is releasing.
Are you trying to call her dirty?
No, but I know what she means, I think.
She can smell
our
you
energy,
through the phone.
You can release energy into the water and let it go down the drain, and it's very relaxing, and it's good for, it gets the circulation going, it's relaxing. A glass of wine in the tub is, its own form of therapy, and just letting go of some of the stuff you're holding on to. And it's also, I find for me, I work my chakras really well in the bathtub because it's just a quiet, even if my daughter's off doing whatever, I'm in the tub and everybody's safe and fine and I'm okay and I can just do my thing and get out and fresh and new, and you get the negative ions and life is good. So you can also, when you're taking a shower in the morning, do a visualization exercise of energy not belonging to you is going down the drain. It's simple and it sounds kind of goofy, but it's these little practices, these mental practices that sort of and start to affect profound change throughout our whole system.
All right, sweetie, I'm going to let you go. You guys can finish up. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much, Catz. Thank you so much, everybody else. And I will upload this later and post it for everybody. Okay?
Okay. This was fun.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. You're welcome. Have a great day, you guys.
Okay. Bye, Sirena.
Bye.